Okay, so welcome everyone to this 100 Days of No Code workshop. Really excited to be joined by the Coda team who are going to be talking and walking us through all the wonderful things that you can do in Coda. Yeah, I think we're going to kind of get a lowdown of what it is first, which would be probably quite helpful before moving into some tips and tricks for how to get started and just some of the cool things that you can make in it. And I think we're going to be doing a little bit of a new format in taking questions whilst we're demoing, we're showing, rather than sort of at the end. So please just chuck your questions in the chat as we go. And I think Maria will be fielding them along with Andrew as well. So I hope that sounds right. And I shall pass over to you, Maria.
Great. Thank you so much.
Cool.
Excellent. I'm so excited to be with all of you today because nerding out on Coda is one of my favorite things to do. So my name's Maria Marquis. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. And at Coda, I consider myself to be the chief cheerleading officer. That's not my title. I'm working on getting it on my business card, but not yet. But what that means is I love to sit down with people who are learning, who are wanting to grow their skills, to celebrate the creativity of creation and of making, and to find ways for us to learn together. So I really focus a lot on learning and celebrating creativity. That's really where I play the most. And I'm here with my lovely and wonderful colleague, Andrew. Andrew, do you want to introduce yourself to the group so they know a little bit about you?
I would love to. My name is Andrew Stinger. My pronouns are he, him, his. I was Coda's first product marketing manager and now have the privilege of working across our product marketing, communications, PR, and education squad. We call it RPT for Reach, Preach, and Teach. And we do have one other guest. It's our senior executive admin assistant, Trousers. He is a little rescue fella who joined us in April and had some product feedback that will actually apply in our session today.
I love it. Oh my gosh, Trousers is one of my favorite things in the world. And I'm so glad that we could get on his schedule here today because it's very hard. He's quite busy. So before we jump in and start our demo of kind of ways to get started with Coda, I'd love to just know kind of what you already know. So we're going to use chat a lot today. There's no such thing as an interruption in my virtual sessions because yes, I love to talk, but I love to talk with people even more than just talking into the void. So go ahead, post a chat for me. What do you already know about Coda? It can be, whatever it might be. Cool. Tony's heard Kelly talk about it. Nice. Yeah. Any other things like, oh, it's project management. Cool. Tabula rasa. I love a blank slate. Beautiful. Love it. Nice. It's a doc that does cool things. We should put that on our website next. That's great. Yeah, totally. Yolanda's new in all caps, beautiful, all in one doc. Love it. Hey, yeah, just saw a video. Cool. Excellent. It's just good for me to know kind of what our starting context is so that I'm not telling you something that you could tell me. Beautiful. Yeah, building dashboards to help them launch products. We do a lot of work with product managers, project managers. That's really kind of the core sweet spot, but we see it coming into play in a lot of different places. Nice. Love it. Cool. Break it down Crayola style. You got it. My favorite Crayola color was called macaroni and cheese. I don't know if it's still around, but it's a great yellow. Excellent.
It's also one of your rotating Zoom backgrounds, Maria.
That's true. That's true. I could pull up the macaroni and cheese here if we wanted to. If we're feeling like that, that's something we have, but I'm going to stick with this one today. Hello, world. Perfect. All right. So at any time today, you don't need to wait for me and Andrew to stop talking because Andrew and I could talk forever. So at any time you have a question, comment, idea, thing you're curious about, go ahead, post to the chat. I'm going to keep a very close eye on that, as will Andrew, because we really want to make sure that today is about you and what you're looking for. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. You should see it in just a moment. We feeling good coming through? Give me a yes, looks good. I can see it. Some kind of signal in chat that we've all made it through the Stargate. All right. Cool, cool. Excellent. Okay. So let's imagine that Stinger and I are getting ready to launch a new project called Coda for Dogs. Trousers has a really important request. So we need to do Coda for Dogs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a new Coda doc for us. And one thing that I love is I can just come to my browser and do coda.new. And it just creates a new Coda doc for me. It's untitled, blank slate, tabula rasa. We are ready to rock and roll. I'm going to call this Coda for Dogs. And I'm going to say, I want to have a fun little icon here. Stinger, what do you think? Which of these dogs feel the best?
I'm super into the little tail waggy dog in the upper right-hand corner. Just seems so
Totally.
docile. And
There we go. And I'm also going to add a little cover photo here because I want to have just a little bit of kind of a look. So we've got this going on. I could upload something, or I can just choose from Unsplash here as well. So let's search for dog and see what comes up. Oh my goodness, this one. This is it. This is the one.
absolutely.
And unfortunately, this little guy's snoot is a little bit off. So we're just going to reposition this, and we can just kind of drag it down so we see both snoots perfectly right there. So now I've got a nice little welcome mat, but I'm already by myself, right? I need to actually do this with Stinger. So I'm going to go ahead, click on share. I'm going to just put Stinger's email in here. Huzzah. I can say, hey, come collaborate, and then just share it. And now Stinger can come on in here and I can start working while we're together. So the cool thing about Coda is, yeah, we can do all kinds of fancy things with it, but at the very least, we can also just start typing together. So here, Stinger's here in the doc. I could say, you know, I want to maybe have a goals thing, and then I want to have just a checklist. So I can just type / and choose checklist. And then we can say, you know, more treats, and then we could say more playtime and more naps as well. So here we go, goals. I'm going to make that bold. Hey, I totally get it. Nikaya, this idea of waiting for Coda to let you share a single page. I'm waiting for that too. And we actually just posted a really interesting reflection from one of our product managers, Nathan, who's an absolute gem of a human, about sort of the trade-offs that we've had to make this year. And one of the things that we decided is we really decided to prioritize performance as a feature, because we don't want Coda to be slower than the speed of your thoughts. And so we actually had to make a lot of trade-offs to really, really think about what can we make happen quickly that's going to have the biggest impact. But the good news is that we are thinking about this sub-page sharing. The interesting thing about Coda docs is that they're not like sort of a regular doc that you'd see out in the world. They're highly integrated, right? We can see views and all these different combinations. So it ends up being a really complex and interesting problem. But I highly recommend checking out our community post from Nathan. It gives a bit of a detail, but I'm with you. I cannot wait for sub-page sharing. It's something I really, really want. Oh, great. And Stinger just posted it there. Beautiful. Excellent. I love it. In 80s movies code name. Beautiful. So here we go. We've already started doing some typing here. We've got some context, and oh, interesting. Stinger just made a cool little adjustment here. We actually decided to collapse this content because one of the things we notice is when you start having a bunch of text, right, is that it can start to get a little bit like, ooh, there's too much going on. I've stopped reading. Where's the TLDR? And what we can actually do with any of our headers, right here with our goal, for example, we can just click on the little shish kebab and choose to collapse the content. And we get a nice, cleaner look and feel here. The other thing that I always like to do if I'm dealing with a lot of text on my Coda docs is I go to my page options and I'm going to toggle on an outline right over here. And then also maybe the authors, and I can even do a subtitle. But the nice thing about the outline is that I can just jump right then to each of those little sections, right? Our consultant. So it's a great way to kind of let that text start to be a little bit more scannable and usable. Yeah. I love it. I love it. So we've got some text going on here, but really one of the big things that we're going to need to do with this Coda for Dogs project is we're going to need to actually create a task management, right? We need to actually track what's going on. And while we could have that in text, it's probably not going to be as valuable as if we could have that in a table. And tables are really just like bread and butter of what Coda is all about. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to make a new page. We're going to call this the task page. And we're going to choose another icon here. Stinger, what do you think? Any of these feel good? Or maybe we should have just another dog icon.
Yeah, let's do it. I'll leave this one up to you.
This is so funny. That's so funny. I love that.
And I, of course, can always come back and change it later if we need to.
It's true. And I'm going to do /, which is a great way. Anytime you want to add something to Coda, just type /, and it's going to show you every single thing you could do. And as you start typing, it's going to give you more options. So I'm going to just choose table right here. And we're going to call this the all tasks table. So Stinger, if we think about our task table, what are some of the columns that we're going to need to have? Obviously the task.
It's interesting. I'm looking at your screen and I realize I'm on the other page. And to get to your cursor, I'm actually just kind of click on your avatar in the upper right, and it dropped me right at the table where you're working, which is really helpful since we're collaborating. So I can literally be on the same page as you.
Yeah.
And I agree. I think having a task, knowing that this launch will be cross-functional, I would love to make sure we can assign tasks to people on our team. It's
Cool.
probably just you and me for now, but I'm going to invite some of our friends like Felix and Buck and those guys to the doc so we can assign things to them as well.
For sure.
I would also, I think we need to be realistic about, any project you have time constraints. So something like our start time and our end time or target dates rather would be really, really great. And then I plan on using this as a way to check in both synchronously and asynchronously. So I would love it for us to be able to communicate the status of how things are going as well.
Totally. So as out there. Yeah.
And then, we're working on a number of really cool things here at Coda, and we have a really diverse team that's really busy. So I would love to help us maybe estimate like what's the effort it's going to require for each of these tasks. So we can figure out, hey, do we need to make some cuts in our launch plan?
Right, totally. Particularly if we are going to then make some calculations off of that, like, oh, Maria is super oversubscribed, but Trousers is just lying around having a nap. We can actually give more things to him. So if we think about this table, right, we've got all of these columns now. And notice if I hover over them, I see a little icon. And right now it's just a T. That tells me that this is a text column. Now we could just have all of this be text, just like we would on Google Sheets, right? But what we can actually do to make this respond more to what we need is we can change the column types to reflect the type of data that's inside of it. So for example, the owner, I'm just going to change the column type to people. That means that I now have an automatic drop-down menu of everybody who is part of the doc. So Stinger just shared with a whole bunch of our colleagues here. And I can say, great, Stinger, this is for you. This one is going to be for me, right? This one can be for Alan. This one can be for James, right? We can just add all of this in here. I'm going to give myself a few more tasks, right? Now, then for start and end date, we can change that column type, make that just over here, make it a date, just like so. Boop, column type. This is actually a new feature that one of our interns did over the summer of just this like fly out. So you can save on your clicks, which I'm always about. Then for the status here, we can make this a select list. So I'm going to go, all right, great. A new select list. The items we want to select from are not started, in progress, done. And maybe Stinger, we want to have like an on hold. Yeah.
Yeah. I always like acknowledged as well. It's one of our options.
Yeah. Nice. Let's see if I can spell that. Acknowledge. There we go. So now I've got a handy little drop down there. And then
Oh, Maria, I have a question on status.
Yeah,
what happens if you clicked when you were in those options for status, which you can go back to any time by clicking the column title and then clicking the arrow icon? What happens if you click convert to table here?
Oh, yes. We change this to be what's called a lookup column. So I can make this a brand new table. I can put it below the current table, or I can just put it in a new page, like hiding my laundry in my closet, right? So that nobody sees it. I'm going to put it in a new page just so we have that for ourselves. And now over here in status, we can see all of this in a table. And maybe for new hires, we want to be really clear about what do we mean, right? So we could say, great, my definition, and this could be like, I saw it, right? So we can add all of this, and notice Stinger is going through and actually formatting each of these different elements here. So the nice thing is I'm going to make acknowledged bold and like purple. That feels really good to me. So now we've got this handy little table. We've added some color, which is fun for us. But now if we head back over here to our task table and I go to this drop-down menu and I say not started, notice how all of that formatting that Stinger and I were doing in that other page holds true over here. And if I hover over, and we can just resize this, if I hover over that, it's going to show me then the definition. So the nice thing about lookup columns is it actually allows you to pull in context into any location. This is great for projects. This is great for the idea of like people and their expertise. This is great for clients, right? You can have the client in the drop-down menu and then see all of their contact information and everything else. Oh, the color thing, Kelly, is, I want to say that's like a month old, Stinger. I mean, what is time anymore? But I feel like it's a relatively new thing. Yeah.
Or we did update our color palette about a month ago, but the ability to carry over the styling for these lookup chips is coming up on almost a year. But the secret is to make sure you format I know Matthew Tubbs launched that like almost a year ago.
Oh my gosh, where have I been?
We launched over 100 feature improvements, by the way, in 2020, and we're not slowing down this year. So if you ever want to follow along, you can go to coda.io/updates to see
cool.
what we're pushing out. But you can always count on us making the product better pretty much every week.
We are exhausted, but like
we are
happy
caffeinated, caffeinated, vaccinated, and a VIP waitlist at the bar right next door.
Yes. Excellent. So, and I love it, y'all. Please keep those questions coming, right? You can always let us know, like, oh, what about this, right? No such thing as an interruption. You just let us know. So we've got some color coming in, which is great because now, like visually, we can see, where we're at. So with the effort bit, we have another type of column that we can use here, and actually technically two. So what I would say, like the original one that we would want to use here, Stinger, would be, oh, goodness gracious, here we go, number and a slider. This is kind of the official one, right? We have a slider that we can use to express effort, right? But sometimes, you know, Stinger and I, we are on the fun team. Our team is definitely the fun one here. So while this is great, maybe we want to do what's a scale icon. So this is something that I think might be really fun. And Stinger, I want to know what you think. Is if we go to the scale.
I love it already.
Right. We can actually come in here and say, all right, which of these icons do we want to use to express it? And then what do we want this to be? Do we want it to be 5 option? Do we want it to go all the way up to 10? Right. So we can kind of express it. So Stinger, which one of these icons feel really good to you?
You know, we were just talking about how caffeinated we are. So I am pretty into the coffee cup icon as a measure of effort.
Cool. Excellent. So now here we go. We've got this nice little coffee bit. Ooh, Yolanda, I also see your question around, would love to see how you relate tables, tasks, features, projects. Totally. And let's actually add that in. We'll do that next thing. I think that's really cool. So here you go. We've got all these little coffee cups, and notice I can just hover and I can just choose whatever it is, right? So it's a fun way to add, again, personality, because I think one of the things that I'm always thinking about when I support people in building docs or teach people how to use Coda is that one way to make it really valuable to you is to have it be in your own language. So, you know, why should you have to, sort of go through whatever a company decides they want to label something as, when you can just be like, no, my team, we like to do it this way. So let's make it our own. And this is really one of the ways that you can really kind of add your stamp. Ooh, and Stinger just added another column type, which I love, which we call reactions. And this is kind of like a handy little button. So we can go ahead and say, great, I'm going to thumbs up. And notice how we've got 2 different ways of expressing it. Here you can see who actually thumbs upped it, if that's a verb. And then here you just see we have a count. And that's, again, something that we can do. If we head up here to any of our columns, there's always an options area. And we can click on this and it allows us to decide how we want things to be expressed. So here we want to express it as showing the people. The other one is the count. And we could even say we don't want to show any of that because maybe we don't want to have any bias happening inside of how we're voting. So here we've got a really fun and very valuable, really comprehensive list of tasks. But to Yolanda's question, and if we go back to our Coda for Dogs where we started, right, we've got these 3 different goals. Right now, they're here in just a checkbox list, but maybe we want to connect our goals to the task so we can see kind of how those are all rolling up together. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to make a new table here. So I'm going to go /table. I'm going to say a net new one. We're going to call this the goals table. And we're going to have more treats. And Stinger, if you want to just like add the labels on the column here, right? Because, you know, we're collaborating, so we can do it together. More playtime and more naps, right? So I'm going to say, cool, this is the goal name, right? So now we've got this goals bit. And if we head on back to our task table, so while Stinger is adding in the relevant tasks and doing some things there, I'm going to go ahead and make some adjustments. I'm going to just right click, which lets me go ahead and insert a column before. And I'm going to say the goal. And we're going to do that lookup column. So just like we did with the status, we're going to go up here, change our column type to a lookup, and it automatically shows me all of the tables I've already made. So I'm going to say, hey, I want to look up to the goals. I now have a handy little drop-down menu. So we could say, great, we need to do the user studies to figure out which treats are actually going to be the best for senior dogs, right? We can add that, naps. We could go ahead, and I'm just going to, for the sake of this, just copy paste just because it's a little bit faster then. And now, we've got all of these different elements over here. And what I might want to do is I just want to go over here. Hey, I'm so glad to hear that, Nikaya, sorry, that it's going to work out for you. I love it. And I'm going to group this along the left. So now we can see, great, naps, treats, playtime, how we're doing there, and having that come through. And then if I head right up here to Coda for Dogs, we also have this relevant tasks area, and we can actually make a connection between this table and our task table. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to head over here. I'm going to go to column type, look up, and notice how it's got this little like blue dot. That lets me know that, hey, there's something under the hood you might want to take a look at. And it automatically says, hey, the goals, that's being used somewhere else. So I can just pop that in and notice it shows me then all of those relevant tasks. They come in, I can then hover over it and I see all the details about it. So lots of ways that we can do that here. Yeah. Let me know, Yolanda, if that feels good, if that answers your question, or if you'd like to dig in more on any of that. Yeah.
Maria,
cool.
May I interject? I did one more thing in the engine room back here.
What'd you
Since
do?
I imagine we'll discuss how we approach these tasks. If you scroll over to the right, I actually sorted these based on effort. So that we can discuss the things that require the most effort first and vote on those. We might not get to talk about the lower effort tasks, and we might just assume we'll do them. I think it would be great if you could just hover over and show how we implemented that sort.
For sure. There you go. We just click on the top. And this is a big thing that I would say is always valuable to remember, is that anything in Coda, right? Any of these pieces of our table, any table always has options that you can apply to it. Yeah. I love this, Stinger, because yeah, it's true. It's like, let's actually talk about the stuff that we know is going to take more of our time, because these smaller things are probably going to be able to take care of themselves. Cool.
And can I ask one more favor?
No.
Sometimes I just like to have one place to go for a lot of my table settings instead of looking column by column. What happens if you click that options menu as you hover over the table?
So options over here,
perfect.
We see all kinds of things that we can do. Again, we can say we want to have our table display differently. Like maybe we just hate lines, or maybe we don't want to see these headers, or maybe we don't want to see the add a row button, right? We can toggle all of these to change the experience. And then we can even just change how we want to see things, right? We could have conditional formatting, right? Maybe if something is applied to Stinger, we want it to be blue. And notice how we get that coming through in there. So we're able to customize that to get those visual cues. Stinger, anything else in this menu?
I'd love to know what happens if you apply that conditional format instead to the current user.
Totally. So this is something I love because it allows us to be really optimized with how we design a doc. So if I choose current user, it's going to say, it essentially highlights whoever is looking at this. Right now, I'm looking at it, so it highlights mine. Stinger, what do you see in your doc?
I see my items in blue.
Yes.
Wow, amazing. Customized to me as a user.
Exactly. And we could even say, I want to see actually more of this, highlighted, right? You can decide exactly what you want it to be like.
Now so again, it really stands out. That's awesome.
Right? So in this case, it's always about what do you need and allowing yourself to solve it. Now, here's actually another thing that we can do. So we did current user here with our conditional formatting. But Stinger, when you come in, maybe you don't want to have to look at this whole table. Maybe you just want to know, but what's my stuff? So
I would love that.
Right. So we can actually do that in a bit of a more formulaic way with one of my favorite Coda features, which is our views feature. So Andrew already made a little subpage right over here. Yeah. And I'm
I did that by
ahead.
hovering over where the task is. You get that little kebab menu and you hover over, and I just clicked add subpage and it automatically nested it. But if I wanted to grab the page, I could drag it to any location as its own top level page or as a subpage within the doc.
Yeah. Like here, for example, I made this subpage in the wrong spot. So I'm gonna actually just drag it up here and I can say this is, meeting notes, right?
Love it.
We can just go ahead and add that. I like this icon for my meeting notes. So let's go ahead and make your life easier. Yeah, go ahead. What's up?
I actually went to the meeting notes page and I typed /meeting, and I was able to really quickly get a very cool template that builds out some best practices for meetings that we've observed through our own user studies that I can then customize, which feels really cool. I have an action items table, an ability to keep an agenda. So really cool using that slash command to see all the options there.
Totally. Yeah. The slash command, honestly, like if you're curious, does Coda have this? Slash is the way to go. Ooh, Yolanda has a question. Let's take a look. Not sure if this is within the scope of the presentation, but I'd love to hear about integrations. Yeah. Oh, Yolanda, you are in our future. We actually have Slack and Gmail both planned, so not to worry. Yeah, love it. So let's make Andrew's life easier. Let's do it because you deserve it. You deserve it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type slash, and I'm going to go ahead and slash. I'm going to choose table. Here we go. We're going to go from the all tasks table. So instead of making something new, we're going to create a view of that all tasks table. So we're going to name this table Andrew's tasks. And let's give ourselves a little more space on over there. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this filter option. I'm going to add a filter where the owner is equal to Andrew Stinger. So now we only see Stinger's items, nothing else. And this is going to be automatically up to date. So for example, if I go, oh, you know what? I actually am going to be developing the creative brief and I actually change this to be Maria Marquis, it's going to filter out. It's no longer
that task
here.
Just left my list.
Right. And if I'm like, you know what, maybe I want Stinger to do all the work. What I could do is I could go and I could say, Andrew Stinger, I'm going to assign that. I'm going to take all of this from Felix.
I am the nap captain.
How can I get that job? So we're going to come on over here, head back to Andrew's tasks, and notice all of those tasks that I just assigned automatically show up here. So this is the nice thing about this is that it automatically updates. We don't have to make those updates in multiple locations. Now, Stinger, how do you feel about tables? Do you like this?
I think they're okay. And it's cool that, you know, the formatting that says like, hey, this is Andrew's task carried over. So I can tell this is truly in sync with that main table of tasks. But to be honest, when I break out with my team, we tend to manage a lot in more of like a Kanban or card view. And I'm wondering if we'd have an opportunity to do that.
For sure. When you think about cards or like a Kanban type of situation, do you like to see that by goal or do you like to see that by status?
I'd really love to see it by status if possible.
Cool.
I'm also aware that I grew up on the East Coast and you grew up in the Midwest by our pronunciation of Kanban for Kanban.
Kanban. Oh gosh. Sure. I mean, I could start doing the rest of this presentation with my original accent that I worked real hard to get rid of, but you know, I won't because I'm going to be a speaker. So I'm going to ungroup this groups column, the goal column, because it sounds like for you, status more important, right? So we're going to go ahead and say, cool. We're going to group this and we're going to group this along the top because of how kind of Kanban or Kanbans work. Now, here we are in a really weird looking table. This is not going to work, but we're going to go ahead up here to our options and we're going to switch it to cards. So now we automatically see by that status. And here's the thing that I love. Let's say that this particular goal, right? This more naps goal is actually kind of causing a problem. I could go ahead and I could decide to switch it on over to my status, right? So we can work in that way. And I'm actually going to remove the sort on this because we don't need it in this particular view. So we're just going to go ahead and say, bye-bye. We don't need it. And I'm going to switch this now over to on hold. And now we have that TK goal and establish 2 times the playtime. Maybe that's on hold. I've dragged all of that over. And if I head back to the all tasks table, I'm going to see all of those changes that we just made. All the on holds are coming in here. So Stinger and his team can do whatever they want to do in their card view, but it's still going to translate back to this location. And if we're like, oh, you know what, we actually have finalized the treat vendor, right? We can actually change that or establish 2 times the playtime. Maybe we're in progress again. We can head on back over here to Andrew's tasks and we see all of that is coming back. So it's a way for everybody to kind of have it their own way. And there's a bunch of different display options we can do. Yeah,
Maria, I'm going to ask you to stay on the card view and I am going to change my established 2 times daily playtime status in the main table, just so we can see how it appears in the card view as well.
Nice.
So if I change the status of established 2 times daily playtime from in progress to done, I'll go ahead and click that. I have clicked it in the table and it's moved the card automatically.
Nice. Yeah. And for
Truly
me,
a synced view of this data, which feels so good.
yeah. And for me, Coda can do so many things, but honestly, when I come back to the thing that saves my psyche the most, it's just this tables and views thing, right? Because we don't have to update in multiple locations. I can have it my way, Stinger can have it his way, and we can have that all come through. And if we wanted to, maybe we're like, why does it always have to be about Stinger? We could change this to just be called My Tasks. And then we can actually go to our options over here and our filter and choose to filter it by the current user. And then it's only going to show me my things. So you can use that same logic that we saw before. Yeah, nice. All right. Ooh, good question. What is the most popular view to organize data in? Or is it there's a best use case for each view? Great question, Max. I love this. So the answer here is it really depends a lot on the person, right? Like for example, me, I actually really like to see things in a table because that's how my brain makes sense of things. Stinger likes to see things in cards. I find that if you have something that has a lot of detail, it's really good to use you guessed it, the detail view, because here you can see all of the different tasks are listed on the side, right? And then we've got this view, and we can even change how we see it, right? We can edit this layout to be a little bit more dynamic. Maybe we want it to look like this, right? And now we've got this going on here. So for our hackathon pitches or for our interview candidates, we use this because it allows us to kind of see sort of a resume view. But then if we head over here, we can also see it in a calendar. Maybe we want to see things of where they're hitting, right? When is the launch happening? Or maybe if we're dealing with a launch form, we want to do a timeline view, which shows us everything kind of in that way. And we can also do a word cloud, right? Oh, what are the things that we're talking about? So it really depends on the intention, right? And we can see chart, in this case, doesn't make sense for that. Stinger, have you noticed any trends? I love this question that Max has asked.
It is truly like what works best for you and for your team. I would say when I am doing things like a run of show where things can happen minute by minute, I actually will look at things in a table view, especially when I add some automations and integrations to say, this is the next task we have to do and send that to like a Slack channel. I love a timeline view for a bigger view of some of the big projects we work on at Coda. Yeah. It's important to know when and where I plug in with our design and engineering team. What's really cool, and it's a little more advanced, and we have help content on it, or you can come to some of our future webinars, but we actually can add dependencies to this timeline view. There are tricks for formatting. You can actually see over on the left-hand menu, it's still grouped by status. So if we want to see the timeline for things that are only done or something like that, we can expand it out or collapse and see things summed up by their status, what kind of timeline we have. If we want to do that by the key initiative, the more naps, more playtime, we could go back and group things that way and see like, what's the time we're working on more naps collectively. So I tend to back into it in terms of what's the end goal? Is it moving people to action and scaling action? Is it being able to have a reportable kind of zoomed out view and then working from there? But I would really just recommend playing around with these and seeing what gets your team to do what you need them to do best.
Yeah. And we have a really good question from Kelly, which is, we can't make the view dependent on the user though. Like we can't have it show a table for Maria and cards for Andrew. That's correct. So if we have people who have very specific requirements for how they want to see things, I would just make a page for each person and let them have it there. Yeah, great question. The other thing is that, Andrew, yeah, go ahead. What's up?
I was gonna say that, but the one thing that Kelly also knows that's really cool is if we didn't want to have, if we all aligned, our whole team just is like, let's look at this as a table, we actually could make the view filtered to the current user, whether it's a card view, a timeline view, all of that.
Yeah. And one thing that I'm thinking about for you, Stinger, is since you are usually looking at the big picture, that you might want to have the ability to kind of look at this particular big table across a couple different dimensions. So we can make these different views like we saw with making the task list for you, but we can also actually create almost like a dashboard feeling here. So for example, maybe you want to be able to look at this table across the different people, right? Like, okay, for my team, who's doing what? So what we can do for any column type is we can go to filter, add filter, interactive filter, create control, and we automatically get a little drop down up here that filters this entire table. So I could say, cool, show me only Maria Marquis stuff. There we go. Show me only Stinger and Maria's stuff. Show me everybody's stuff. So we could do that. We can also say, you know what, I want to see this by team. So I can do the same thing, filter, interactive filter, create control, boop. And now we have a team one. And then we could do the same thing for start and end date. We could do it for status. So we
What
can
about, can we do
essentially
it for
create.
task?
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
curious how some of these might look different.
totally.
Um,
Filter, interactive filter. Also, I wish we could have like a create control button in life. Like I would like to create control in this moment. Um, so there we
oh,
go.
cool. So since that's a text column, it turns into a text search box.
Yes.
Um,
So if we want to search
very
play,
cool.
notice it shows me everything that's got that in it,
PLA,
right? For
yep.
that text column, or anytime we have two. This is great. I use this actually for my board game database. If I'm looking for a particular type of board game and I can see, oh, how many people does that play? So I love this because we can create this dashboard type of an experience in this way. Now, let's get to Yolanda's question around buttons and Slack and Gmail and all of that.
Let's do it.
So what we can do is Coda has this idea of that we call them packs, which is essentially our answer to integrations. Because we get it that, you know, there are other tools in our world, right? You're not going to get engineers to necessarily stop using Jira, right? But you can actually connect things together in a deeper way than just kind of cobbling it together, right? So what we can do is we can go to this packs and import area. And these are some of our top packs, right? But we can also just search, right? If I want to search for Slack, right? I can see that. Or if I want to search for Shopify, right? Or the one that I love is Zoom, right? We can actually see all of our Zoom recordings and pull them all in. So lots of options here, but let's do Slack because Stinger, you and I use Slack all the time. So what we're going to do is we're going to do Slack. I'm going to do a quick sign in to install, la, 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 la. Go ahead and make all that happen. So now Slack is connected and I've got a bunch of things that I can start to use. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and click this plus sign. And I'm going to add a button and I'm going to make the action. Notice we have a little Slack as an option. So there's tons of things we can do with a button just out of the box from Coda, but we could say, I want to post a message and we're going to say, we'll just use the account that I have. And we're going to say, Stinger, what should we have this button do? What do you think?
Send reminder.
Cool. Yeah. Send reminder. So now notice that's what that button says. And we're going to do that here. So the content here, oh, I know, buttons in Coda are life changing. Yes, yes, yes. Louder for the people in the back. I love buttons. So for this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a formula, actually. I'm going to say equals, and I'm going to use concatenate, which is just a fancy way of saying put some stuff together. And the things I'm going to put together are, please update your status for, and then I'm just going to say task dot this row. Actually, I think we just do task here because it's in this particular row. So we're good. So it's just going to pull in the task name. So now we're going to keep on trucking with this button. The channel we're going to go to, we're just going to have it be general for now, but we can put whatever channel we want. And then we can actually go ahead and decide what color. So what color button do we want to do, Stinger? What do you think?
Obviously purple.
Purple, of course. And then which icon should we do? Do we want to do
Can we maybe look up like an alarm set of icons?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do we get for those?
Oh, look how stressful that one
Perfect.
is.
Yeah. Stress me out.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Of course, of course. We can also add a disable state on this button. Like we could disable it if the due date, let's actually do the end date.
End date. Yep.
Is we want to do like greater than today, right? I think that's what it would be.
Let's do today plus 3.
Today plus 3. Got it.
Yeah.
So, you know, we don't need to have it if that's not something that's coming up, right? So now notice the buttons are changing their state. I'm going to just make that a little bit bigger. So we've got that there. And then if I push this button, it's going to get a reminder of all that stuff coming through. Now, the other thing that we can think about with Coda is the formula language. Now, the formula language, like any language, we can go very deep into it. And I love it, Kelly. I just need you like in my life, just like constantly telling me like, I love it. It's so great. Yeah, and it is super easy. I'll send you my address. It'll be fine. So if we think about the Coda formula language, there are lots of things that we can do with it. But one of my favorite things that we can do is we can have formulas in the table, right? Like I could say, oh, let's just go ahead and insert a little column here. Doodly-doo, insert column before, we're going to call this days. And I could say equals the end date minus the start date. right? This is just going to let me know how many days that task is, right? So I can do it in a table, which is fun, but I can also just do it in the text editor part of Coda. So let's actually, I know, gasp. So I'm going to head over here to this. We don't need our this little goals thing anymore because we've turned it into a table. So maybe we want to have this Coda for Dogs page be kind of an update that we send to our executive sponsor. And maybe I want our executive sponsor to know what are the different tasks that we're working on that are maybe that are not done, that are on hold. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to type equals, which is me saying, yo, Coda, it's time for us to do some formulas. And I'm going to say, Coda, I want you to look at the all tasks table. Then I'm going to use this dot, which tells Coda the next step. So, and then I want to filter where the status is equal. And notice it's just automatically populating these things here, right? On hold. And then I could have a count, which shows me the number, but my favorite is a bulleted list. Ooh, do I love a bulleted list. So now when I press that, this shows me these are all of the tasks that are on hold. And Stinger, could you head to either your view or the full task view and add something else to be on hold? And let's see what happens.
I would love to. I am going to go to the task view and I am changing the draft launch visual to on hold.
There we go. So now we can see all of that comes through automatically. So this is dynamic. We don't need to spend time putting together our updates. Yeah, we can just have it all right here and have this be ready for our CEO to come and take a look at. But I don't know about you, Stinger, but if I'm a CEO, I'm probably pretty busy, right?
Yes.
I'm probably a busy person and I might not remember to come here to this awesome doc and look at it. So what we can actually do is we can, to your point, Yolanda, connect it to our email. So we could actually send out this as an email. So what I'm going to do is I'm just, for the sake of example, Stinger, let's put that button on this page, right? So I'm going to just scroll to the bottom. So it's kind of out of the way. I'm going to do /button, which lets me create a new one, just like so. And we're going to call this button email notes. So what we can do is then notice it's populating that there. And before we kind of make the other changes here, I'm just going to head back over to our packs area, choose Gmail. I'm going to sign in to install. It's going to be my handy little Coda email. Huzzah, there we go. Just a couple clicks, my Gmail is now connected. And I'm going to right click on this button to head back. The action now, notice I have Slack and also Gmail now shows up. We're going to choose to send an email using my email account. We're going to send it to our CEO at coda.io. And the subject is going to be Coda for Dogs weekly update. And then the content, I'm just going to type equals, and I'm going to choose Coda for Dogs. So the content of this page. Now we can choose color. What color we should do, Stinger? What do we think?
Oh, blue screams email to me.
Blue, right?
Yep.
And then we can say, cool, email. What do we think? This feels right. But notice all these other little things we can do. So now when we click on this email notes, it's going to send this whole page. Notice we've got the on hold. We can see how we're doing. We've got our goals. All that stuff is going to come through into email to our CEO.
So Maria,
Stinger,
I have a request.
Yeah. What's that?
Knowing that Shashir's time is really limited, I don't think he'll need to see the background context every time. So could you scroll down to that heading
for sure.
under our goals table and just hover over the heading to get that little kebab menu? And could you just drag that whole section of text into the background context subpage?
Oh, for sure.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, let me just go and, oh goodness, my mouse is just
it.
all over the place. Just drag and drop that over there. And you know what, Stinger?
So everything under that heading, love it.
Yeah, and I actually want to see the goals here before the status. I think that's really important. So I'm just going to do the same thing, drag it up, and there we go. So we can do all of that however we like. Yeah.
And just to think about what we put in this email update to Shashir and maybe as a chance to show the formula language again, could we also see tasks that are due this week?
Oh, sure. So we're going to go ahead and do the same thing, equals. We're going to say, go to that all tasks table, filter where the start date is equal to today plus 7, or contains. We want to do contains, not equals. And just get rid of this. contains today plus, oh goodness, I can't type today. Today plus 7. Oh, there we go. Oh, we've got an error. Let's figure out. I'm missing a close parentheses. Silly me. And then we're going to do a bulleted list. That's the other thing I like about the formula language is that as you're working, it gives you those messages. So you can be like, oh, that's right, I forgot that little thing. So we can go through there. And then tasks due this week. And we're going to make that a nice heading as well. Bold.
I guess technically tasks due in 7 days.
Oh, due in 7 days. There we go. One thing I like is that we can actually, if we wanted to, we can even make a filtered view and actually use the little date picker to be able to pull that through. Cool. So we got this going. We have our email button, but Stinger, I don't know about you, but I would probably forget to push this button every week. So maybe we can actually make a bit of a change. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to go to our little gear menu, choose automations. I'm going to add a rule, and this is going to be a time-based rule. So every Monday at 9 a.m., then I'm going to email to CEO@coda.io. And the subject is going to be Coda for Dogs weekly update. And I could actually send the email out this way, or I don't need to do this. I can actually just say push a button, and I'm going to have it be the email notes button. So instead of having to do the same formula we saw for that button, we can just have it push it, and it's going to automatically go through in that way. Ooh, good question, Max. What are the most used integrations or packs, and for what use cases? Stinger, I'd love to know from you what you think. Oh, great. You just posted. They're definitely the workplace communication ones, Slack and Gmail, which is what I was going to mention. And then also Jira is really big because a lot of our product managers who use Coda are like, but my engineers still need to use Jira and I want to know what's happening in Jira, but Jira doesn't make any sense to me. So they can kind of pull in that Jira information and also push out.
Yeah.
But again, it really is personalized. Yeah, Stinger, what do you think?
I was gonna say Coda runs on Coda. So we use GitHub. So we have the GitHub pack where we can track pull requests. We also have a GitLab pack. I know Monica, our administrative powerhouse, uses our package tracking packs to be able to just have a table of the status of things coming to various offices. And what's cool is you can actually have these, it's like we have Gmail and Slack in here, but you could actually have multiple ones, and you could set up an automation where it's like, hey, if the FedEx package status is delivered, Slack the location SF channel to go check the mailroom. Like you could actually link together and use Coda as your connective tissue there. Katie uses the Instagram pack to show off pictures. Like it's a pretty cool thing. And I tease that we'll share a bit more, but one of the things we're working on is opening up the number of packs we have by co-developing them with you. So we are currently working on an ecosystem where anyone could potentially build a pack. Stay tuned. We have an event coming up this fall called Block Party, where we'll be able to demo a lot more about that. I use the Wikipedia pack all the time too.
And we also use the Spotify pack. So for example, sometimes in our weekly team meetings, we'll be like, hey, what song are you listening to? And we'll just pull in the Spotify link so people can just go and directly listen to it. Or I'm a big Dungeons and Dragons person. And when I lead a campaign or when my DM leads a campaign, we actually have the Spotify playlist for each chapter because we organize the campaign inside of a Coda doc to know what should be happening. So really, I just encourage folks to search around over here, but then knowing that more is coming. Ooh, good question. I love this. I know we're running out of time, but can you touch briefly on creating templates? That is sharing docs as a template? For sure. Let's say that we are so successful on Coda for Dogs and how we built this out, that we want to actually share this as a template with the world. Or we want to, create our sort of work on our online presence, right? We could scrub out kind of the key data, right? We could just, once this project completes, we could remove some of the different elements, and then we could just go up here to share. And notice we have a regular sharing dialog for working with people, but we can also choose to publish. And we can say, yeah, this is discoverable by everyone or not. We can then decide, what do we want people to do when it's published? Should they be able to edit it, play, which means they can play with all the buttons, but no changes are saved, or just view it. And then we can decide where we want those pages to show and if we want to earn credits on sign up. Then what happens when we do that is we just can go, if we go to coda.io/gallery, then it's going to be out here for the world to see if we've decided to have that be discoverable by everyone. So you could go and search by a person, right? Maria Marquis, who's she? She seems kind of cool. And see everything that they've made, this nice little like gallery of all the things. And then we also could search by topic, right? By either category. Maybe I want to look at finance and see everything in that category. Or maybe I'm just really interested in, what are people doing for planning? I want to see what OKRs are coming out. And we can go ahead and see, oh, here's a bunch of different things. Yeah. Does that answer your question, Yolanda?
Absolutely. I'll just come off.
Right on. Yeah. Excellent. So Stinger, what else should we share? Anything else?
My brain is already overflowing and I use this tool every day. But I have shared some follow-up resources with Max. If there are certain features you're interested in, you can always see the lovely Maria explain how to use them on our YouTube channel. But I would recommend, if you want to just say, hey, I want to become proficient at all the key features of Coda, coda.io/learn is our learning destination. And you can find videos. You can actually copy that doc and practice basically in your own personal workbook alongside the content. And we'll also share some information. Maria leads a cohort of makers through our doctorate program, which is a 6-week, partly asynchronous, but partly with webinar office hours opportunity to go to the total next level of Coda excellence. And we've opened up kind of the RSVP waitlist for our second cohort for Q4. And of course, you can always see Maria delighting folks through their maker journey at our webinars, coda.io/webinars. And yeah, Kelly, great idea. Community.coda.io is where you can chat with other makers. In addition to the community you all have, we have one. We share our product updates here, and we see a lot of folks come up with even more creative solutions for Coda than we imagined as we built the product, which is really, really cool.
Yeah, and this
it's another place you can chat with Kelly.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And I would say this place in particular, the news from Coda, is where you can get all of the announcements of what's been going on. So for example, here's the app for Zoom meetings that we just launched today. So here you go, you can get all the information. And this is also where we post invitations to beta test certain features. So you can kind of be on that bleeding edge there as well. Cool. Well, I'm going to go ahead, stop sharing my screen. We are here for any and all questions that you might have. So if you want to see something again, because we were moving along lightning speed, or if you're curious about anything Coda related, please let us know. It's been a true pleasure hanging out with all of you today. Thank you so much for giving us your most precious resource, which is your time. I take that very seriously, and I hope you found just a couple things that sparked some creativity that you're ready to play with. So Stinger, anything else that I'm missing that we should share with folks? You're on mute, but I can tell that you're happy about it.
Sorry, I'm like the loudest typer ever, and I was continuing to work in the Coda for Docs doc. But I just want to say, Trousers is really excited about the project and how it's shaping up. We did it for you,
Trousers. Oh, Studio 41. I'm so glad to hear that. Yeah. Well, we've got 3 minutes. Let me know what other questions you have, or Max, if there's any thoughts or things that you're curious about that we can make space for, you just let us know.
Yeah, of course. No, I just had to say a massive thank you. This has been an epic session. Yeah, literally 3 minutes. Any questions, please fire away. I'm just going to check people's facial expressions on video to see if they're about to ask a question or not.
They're just like, oh.
It doesn't look like it. No. Okay. Well, I would like to pass over to you again, Maria, just to kind of get any closing thoughts, things you want to leave people on from today's session. Yeah,
totally. So the big things that I offer to folks is, yes, Coda can do everything, but the best Coda doc is one that solves a specific problem. And the best way to explore is to just go to the explore panel inside of Coda or type / play around, find a problem that you'd like to solve, because it's going to help you kind of guide that self-directed learning. And then always know that there is an entire company ready and waiting to support you, right? Our support team at support@coda.io is phenomenal, just like all around great humans who are also brilliant. And we love to hear from you. We love to hear what's working. We love to hear where things are confusing, because we actually have a Coda doc that we track all customer feedback in. And we actually use that when we're evaluating what to do. And we then always close the loop. So if you've requested a feature and then it happens, that doc reminds us, hey, this person asked about it. Let's let them know that it now exists. So please do not hesitate to share your successes or your struggles with us. We want to support you. Find a problem to solve, play around, type / or go to the Explore panel, and that's going to give you everything you need. Stinger, any other words of wisdom from you?
Open a Chrome tab, go to coda.new, hit the / button, see what you find.
Yeah.
I would definitely say, for me, the magic moment was realizing that you could make a button that pushes other buttons. And all of a sudden, I was using basically a dock surface to build apps with like slightly complex features. The other thing I would say is if you go to our doc gallery, docgallery.com or coda.io/gallery, you can copy most of those docs, and you can actually inspect the tables in them and look under the hood, like how have people configured these settings. So in that similar way where like you might go to an open source code database to figure out how to write something, our doc gallery actually is that. You can just copy something, look under the hood, say, oh, how did they make this work like that? I literally just figured out how to make, I have a conversation I have to have today about what should we work on first, second, and third. And I have a column for first choice, second choice, third choice. And I wanted to make sure to disable after you vote once in the first choice column. I got that formula by looking at a colleague's doc and checking out how they disabled the buttons with what formula.
Yeah. As Pablo Picasso said, great artists steal. And I think the same is true for doc makers, right? Like if you see a pattern, you'll be able to reuse it with your own context. Yeah. Excellent.
Love that. Love that. It's amazing. Yeah. Just basically do what they said, literally. Yeah. Because if the problem's been solved, like I'm going to go to Stack Overflow to figure out what's going on, right? Like it's about sharing the knowledge and then making it your own. Definitely. Yeah, big time. Yeah, again, I want to say a massive thank you, Maria and Andrew, for your time, for your energy, for your presence and like wisdom on how to get started. Yeah, I guess I'll see you guys all in Slack, in Twitter, and hopefully on Coda. Yeah, so have a great week, everyone. Thanks again for coming to the session, and see you next time. Yeah, yeah. Cheers, everyone. Bye bye.
Take care, everybody.
Thanks, squad.
Bye.
Happy making.